We got Chanel Dyer coming in at minus 450 going up against Ravina Oliveira, who comes in at plus 350. Now, starting off on the Dyer side of things, even though she didn't get her hand raised on the Contender Series this past season, Dana was still impressed with the performance of both women, between Carol Foho and her, that Dana still decided to sign both of them. Dyer, Muay Thai specialist, very nasty combination, good head kicks, good knees and elbows, but I don't think she was expecting the amount of power that her opponent Foro was carrying in that matchup. Within the opening 2 minutes, we saw Foro drop Dyer and wobble her repeatedly, even opening up a nasty cut over the left eye of Dyer. Dyer somehow stayed in that matchup after repeatedly getting dropped and hurt, and even won the scorecard, or at least won the third round on 2 judges' scorecards, showing her heart, grit, and determination. She's usually not that far behind it in terms of the striking game. She's usually the one that's better in the striking realm and is able to go out there and put good combinations on her opponents, or even find that knockout with her head kicks that are so dangerous. She's part of the GBTT, Great Britain top team, which is head coached by Mr. Brad Pickett. Obviously a very solid head coach to really bring these fighters along. We've obviously seen him do a great job with fighters like Nathaniel Wood and even Loney Kavanaugh. And Chanel Dyer is his next project in terms of somebody to work on to get to the next level and succeed at that next level. Like I said, very good Muay Thai. Her grappling is improving as well. She took a grappling bout in between her pro MMA career and actually pulled off an omoplata. So it's clear that she's working on that aspect of her game to really round out and not just be strictly a striker. Now she's going up against a striker in Ravina Oliveira, who is now 0-2 in the UFC. Oliveira has really struggled to be successful at this level. Now, her first fight was actually back in 2024, I believe it was, maybe 2023. I believe it was 2023, end of 2023, where she ended up getting out-grappled by Teinar Lisboa, who is primarily a striker, and that kind of goes to show the flaws in Oliveira's game. Oliveira managed to have some success in the third round of that matchup, but it was too little, too late there, and it seemed more so that Lisboa was content fighting off of her back, knowing that she wasn't going to get finished. Then Oliveira sat out for about 2 years, and actually that fight was October of 2023. Then she returns in October of 2025, coming back from her knee surgery, recovery, rehab, all that stuff. And she still looked like not that good of a fighter against Stephanie Luciano, who arguably is a tougher opponent than Teinar Lisboa. We saw them be somewhat competitive through the first couple minutes of that fight, but then Luciano really started to pull away near the ending of the first round. In the second round, at the ending of the second round, we saw Luciano get the fight to the ground with relative ease. So she's like, hey, let's do this again in round 3. She got to the grappling right away, got Oliveira down repeatedly without much resistance, and then eventually worked to the back and got the submission win over Oliveira. Oliveira has a lot of holes in her game, especially in the ground game. And the striking is probably where she's strongest, but even there, she's very mediocre. Something to take into consideration is that she faced some very low-level competition before she got her opportunity with the UFC. Besides the last opponent that she beat before coming to the UFC, who was an 8-5 opponent who was 40 years old at the time, her other opponents combined for a record of 1-3. 5 of those 8 opponents were making their pro debuts, with only one of them with a win, who was 1-1 going into that fight. So it's easy to see why she was able to go out there and defeat that level of opponent. But as we've seen, and we'll talk about a few other fighters later on this card who fight very low-level competition on the regional scene and then get a rude awakening when they get to the UFC because the level is just that much higher. So like I said, Oliveira is best when she can get to her Muay Thai, but even then she's not anything special in that realm. Now here against Chanel Dyer, I get why Dyer is such a massive favorite here. She should be the better striker. Oliveira does not provide as much power threat as Carol Foro did. And even if Dyer wanted to take this fight to the ground, I think she can have major success there. And it wouldn't even surprise me if she ended up pulling off a submission. I saw the submission prop for Chanel is sitting at plus 1,000, maybe worth a little bit of a sprinkle there. But I think Dyer wins this fight any which way. Usually I'm a little bit skeptical about women's MMA, especially at chalk. But I feel like this is one that's meant for Dyer to show out in front of a hometown crowd and end up getting the win here. So give me Dyer. I'm going to say Dyer inside the distance. I think she just runs through Oliveira. But again, that submission prop at plus 1,000 is definitely something to consider, considering how poor Oliveira's ground game is.